Well, hello, welcome, happy day, happy life, happy journey. It is Thursday, so it must be time for walking the path. Let's walk in the path. And I'm walking it alone right now, but I know somebody's going to come real quick because we're going to be live. That's right, that's right. Okay, so this is what we're doing. We're walking the path today. So grateful to be here with everybody. And today is, hi everyone. Today is a continuation of last week. So I'm super excited to be walking the path with you. You know, when I first began studying as a practitioner at Agape, they gave us this test, not a test, it was 4 questions that they wanted us to answer. And one of them was about why you want to be a practitioner. And I realized as I was writing the answer to that question that, simply put, that I realized that I had a real desire. The only thing that I really had a desire for was my own spiritual growth and development. Like, just, that's all I wanted to work on. That's all I wanted to do. And I had a 9-to-5 job and, all these other things. And it's like, but all I want to do is go to retreats and study and read and pray and meditate and all that good stuff. Right. So I realized, one, the only thing that really excites me is my own spiritual growth and development. And 2, that I want to walk that path with others. That's where the title of this Facebook Live series came from, is Walking the Path. I want to walk that path with others. That was the insight. And I want to be in service to a world that works for the best and highest individual and collective good. I want to be in service to a world that works for everyone. I want to be in service to a world where everyone has everything they need. And that seems like really huge. Like, what a big idea. Who the hell am I to be working on that? So that's what came up, though. That's what came out. That's what we're seeking to express. And the beautiful thing about that intention, and we're going to be talking about intentions today and how they relate to the life structures of beliefs and relationships. But just as folks were kind of signing on, hey, Rick, sup, homie? Karen, nice to see you. Morning from, is that New Zealand? NZ? Wow. Welcome, Karen. Thank you for joining us all the way down under. So the great thing about those intentions, I want to focus on my own spiritual growth and development. I want to walk that path with others, and I want to be in service to a world that works for everyone. I could do that anywhere. I could do that in my sales job, 9 to 5, sitting in the office. In fact, I drive by that office every day, or whenever I drive, I drive by that office to get out of the marina where I live. And I remember having to be at that 9 to 5 every day. It was a great job. It supplied, Amanda, how good to see you, sister. It was a great job that supplied me and allowed me to move into my own spiritual growth and development. And I'm really grateful now for, hola, Deborah. I'm really grateful now for the opportunity to have a different kind of life. So that said, I could still do those intentions at that job. So a lot of times we have people that come to Rythmia and they're like, hey, Justin, we had a lot of people that came and said, come to Rythmia and they have an awakening. Or a lot of people that come to a retreat and they have an awakening and they go, oh, I can't, I want to go save the rainforest. And they leave their job and now they're like, oh shit, Here's the point, that when we work with intention, the how of it isn't our business. The intention, and we set an intention that's broad enough to fit wherever we're working. So for example, my intention, my own spiritual growth and development, walk that path with others, and to be in service of a world that works for everyone, could be fulfilled in a 9 to 5 job. Now there's a bigger expression of it, and it looked like moving to Costa Rica, and that was out of the blue, right? But the point is that when we set good intentions, those intentions become big enough to continue to grow into. Here's the difference. It's the difference between saying, I want to go to New York and I want to go east, right? An intention has a broader non-ending point. It's more open-ended. There's always more east. Hey, hello from Illinois. Christine, nice to see you. There's always more east. but going to New York has a finite ending. I want X, Y, or Z is not an intention. I mean, that can be an intention, but it's a very specific outcome, and it limits the possibility because, going east gives us so much more opportunity. There's so much more to explore. Yeah, east, we're going to get New York and more. This and something better. That's always the way you end an intention. For this or something better. So today we are talking about life structures. And life structure are the areas in our life where our living and our growth and development are revealed, right? We talked last week about the life structures of spirituality and ego. I'm going to go through there's 8 life structures. This is a teaching from Agape developed by Michael Bernard Beckwith, my teacher, and one of my teachers, my most dearest teacher. And so the 8 life structures are spirituality, ego, beliefs, relationships, community, body, temple, financial, and livelihood. Spirituality, ego, beliefs, community, body, temple, financial, livelihood, and what did I say, relationships? I think so. 8. And we're going to be talking, so last week we talked about spirituality and ego, spirituality being our spiritual practices that help keep us anchored, the spiritual practices of meditation, prayer, sacred study, any sort of qigong, musical expression, whatever, nature reconnection, fellowship, all of these aspects are part of our spiritual growth and development, our spiritual practices. Their importance of practice to help keep us, journaling is another spiritual practice, to help keep us engaged and connected. Ego was a healthy self. Ego is a healthy sense of self, free from comparison, free from sense of lack and separation, a healthy sense of knowing who and whose I am. And now this week we're going to talk about beliefs and relationships. Okay, so the things about life structures are that these life structures support us for being a candidate for enlightenment, right? When we have these, think of the life structures as pillars or as legs of a table, right? If you have 4 legs on a table, it's pretty stable. If you had 8 legs on a table, that's super stable. And if a couple of those legs go out of balance, you're still really solid. It's the same thing with life structures. If I have 3 life structures humming and the other 5 are out of balance or inharmonious, I can still be a 3-legged stool. But if one of those things, if I've got a good body temple, good physical relationship and health, and I've got financial stability, and I have a good relationship, right? A good solid personal relationship, 3 life pillars. But my spiritual practices aren't so great. My relationship to self and ego, not so stabilized. I don't have a big community to support me, and my livelihood, my career isn't really humming, right? But I'm still doing good. I've got my physical body, I've got finances, and I've got a good relationship. Now, all of a sudden, those 3 things are stabilized. The other 5 life structures aren't. And what happens if I get sick? Now I've got a good relationship and I'm financially stable, but my physical being isn't healthy. And now my life is really off kilter. But if I had community and my spiritual practices in place, and my relationship, and my physical body, and my financial, and my livelihood, then if I lose my health for a little while, I've got a community to support me. I've got a strong relationship. I've got spiritual practices that support me. So you can see how the life structures begin to help us stabilize our lives so that we can focus on what's really important. If I'm focusing on surviving, just getting through the next thing, I'm not really able to focus on my spiritual growth and development, or walking that path with others, or being in service to a world that works for everyone. But when my life structures are instead, when my livelihood's clicked in. I've got a good career. My finances are stabilized. My physical body is healthy and vital and vigorous, and I can live my dream. And I've got a strong community that supports me and sees me for who I am and who I get to contribute to. And I have a solid relationships with my family and friends and perhaps a loved one. My belief systems are in line. I've examined my fundamental belief structures, and my ego is healthy and balanced. I have a strong sense of self, and my spiritual practices are in solid use. Man, then I'm a candidate for enlightenment. Then I'm able to focus on those things that really enrich my life and bring me closer to God, bring me closer to a sense of oneness that move beyond any sense of separation and create a heaven on earth. That's the intention of life structures. And so today we're going to talk about the life structures of belief and relationships. So let's hit beliefs. So beliefs are a life structure. How do I talk about this? Okay, we're just going to drop into spirit. That's what I know, that spirit moves through, in, and as each of us. And whenever we need, we just drop in. Thank you, spirit. So beliefs are the life structure that's really where we have an understand, when we've examined our fundamental beliefs, our fundamental concepts of the world. Do we live in lack and limitation? Or do we live in a sense of the limitless nature of life? Right? Our beliefs are fundamental to how we view the world and what's happening around us. I was just talking to a friend today who is from a blended family. And she kept saying, it's never going to be my family. It's not my family. It's not like my blood family. It's never going to be what I really want. It's never going to be what I really need. It's just the family that I have, right? But it's not really what I want. And I was listening to her, and I said to her, can you consider that this is your family, and that the only thing that's limiting one of the things that's limiting your interaction with them is this false sense of separation. Well, that's not my family. They're not really my blood. I was telling her that I'm all blood family, and we got problems too. Like, we don't have problems, but there's times when I go, is this my family? And I'm sure they say the same thing about me. Like, that guy's off his rocker, going off to Peru again, or what's he doing? Ayahuasca? Holy shit, my brother's lost it, right? They're going, I don't think. Remember the movie Smokey and the Bandit? And that's an old movie. And Jackie Gleason was always telling his son, boy, remind me to hit your mama in the mouth when I get home. And he'd say, why, Papa? He goes, because there's no way you came from my loin. I know that's so outdated and wrong in the Me Too culture, but there's no way that you came from my loin. I know that's what my family's saying. There's no way that we came from the same loins, boy, because you wacky. You out there. You one taco short of a combo plate, baby. That's what they saying to me. So our beliefs are like, what do we believe about the nature of reality? What do we believe about the nature of ourselves? Do I believe that I'm subject to somebody else's idea of who I am as being my happiness to other people? Now, I can say, oh, no, I'm solid in myself. I know that my happiness is my own and nobody else creates my happiness. But then when somebody says something to me that I react to, and then I'm pissed off for the rest of the day, well, then really I'm kind of at the whim of other people. I'm not solid in myself and my own beliefs of who I am, of the limitless nature of my beingness, of my consciousness. And so beliefs are this life structure that needs to be deeply examined. And the way we examine that, don't worry, I've got a tool. We got tools for you, baby. So, okay, before I go into the tools for life structures, let's just catch up and see where everybody is. We got a lot of people. Hello, everybody. I just want to say hi to Lisa from Ohio. Zinlin, hi, love. I'm coming down to see you. Kaleo, my brother, love you. We got to go for a hike soon. Geraldine, Rick, Justin, Sandra, Christine, Jessica, hello family. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. I'm so glad to see you. Thank you all. Okay, so we're talking about life structures. Life structures are the structures that allow us to be a candidate for enlightenment, that allow us to live the life to move out of survival and adaptation and move into insight and revelation and downloading from spirit and having old structures dissolve and new structures emerge. That's when we're a candidate for enlightenment, when old ways of being are dissolving. It can be kind of uncomfortable, and new ways of being are emerging through in and as us, right? That's when we're moving and expanding. When I'm worried about having to eat and where my next meal is coming from and driving from bombs and is my family okay? Am I living on the street, right? That's survival and adaptation. We've got a lot of our brothers and sisters who are in that mode of existence right now. And so that's where the idea of an intention that works for the best and highest individual and collective good, where we just celebrated Martin Luther King's holiday and the anniversary of his birth. And he had a vision of a beloved community, of a kind and just global society in which we weren't separated on these lines of race and class and gender. We saw oneness and wholeness. That was he had examined his beliefs. Now, how do we anchor our beliefs in the face of everything that we see, the vicissitudes of the news and our own difficulties with interpersonal relationships? Well, I'll tell you how. Intention. Intention is the answer. Intention is the key. I'm learning this more and more every day, that I need to set an intention before I do a Facebook Live. I need to set an intention before I go to that meeting. I set an intention this morning going to the gym. What's my intention? To move my body freely and to really anchor into my body and to celebrate the movement, that I'm flexible. Baby, thank you, right? What's my intention, right? So our intentions are the keys to what? They're the keys to creating a conversation within ourselves that is louder than the mental chatter of lack, limitation, fear, doubt, worry, and not enoughness, and the collective consciousness chatter of everything's going to hell in a handbasket, there's shootings everywhere, and homelessness, and all this stuff, right? Not that those things aren't real. But we're not going to solve the problem at the level of the problem. It's an issue of consciousness. And we must hold our consciousness high in order to see the future, to see a world that works for everyone. I love the story of Nelson Mandela. 27 years in prison. I'm embarrassed that I don't remember how long. It was an eternity, 27 years in prison. And the stories are that when he was with his crew, right, and they were out busting rocks, that they'd get rocks and design the government while they were in prison. You know, and this is the structure of the government. They'd be like making chalk marks on the rocks. All right, we're going to have a president. We're going to have a prime minister. We're going to have this kind of cabinet. We're going to have this sort of organization. They were no matter what the circumstances were, they were in prison in a totalitarian structure of suppression, apartheid, right? That gave them no freedom. No, they were nothing. And yet they were talking about their vision in the midst of circumstance, right? That's what we must do. And that's what intentions do. When we set intentions, they help us create a conversation in our minds that are louder than the chatter of the circumstance of our life, from the experience of our life, from the limited thinking that comes from those experiences. We must create a conversation that's louder. So my intention is to live in a world that works for the best and highest good for everyone. I don't care what the circumstances are. Let me hold that intention and see that clear action comes from that intention. And so the life structure of belief begins to have us excavate those limiting beliefs that we don't even know we're operating by. They operate in the background. There are background systems of belief that we don't even know. It's that chronic thought that we're not even aware of. Like my friend who's like, that's not my family. It's a blended family. My father married this person, so it's not my family, right? That's a belief. That's just a belief. And there's nothing wrong with it, but there's an opportunity there. There's an invitation there to see wholeness. So maybe the intention is I see wholeness and connection everywhere I go. Maybe that's the intention. Maybe the intention is I create loving and whole relationships with everyone I meet. Maybe the intention is there's something within me that deeply connects with individuals and I am embraced by it and they are embraced by me. What is your intention? Intention is the key. So our life structure is beliefs, and our beliefs are the structures that comprise the concepts that do not recognize the limitless nature of our existence. So anything that we are thinking, saying, or believing deeply within us that is limited in any way, that's a belief that we get to examine, and that's a belief we get to turn into an intention. And intentions are pillars, and there's 3 pillars to intentions. One, they've got to be affirmative, not positive, because I can be positive, life sucks. I can be positive, you're an asshole. I can be positive, I'm an asshole, right? But they're affirmative, right? I know that no matter what I think about Fred, he's an emanation of the divine, that I must separate the deed from the doer. I must separate the action from the truth of this person's being. They're one from the same source. They're from the same energy. So we're one. There's no separation. There's no distinction. When I can see that in another, something shifts. People rise or sink to the level of expectations that we have for them. So the belief structure, the life structure of beliefs are those things that we must examine the thought patterns, the chronic thought patterns that we have that are in limiting in any way. This is the way it's always going to be. Nothing ever works out for me. This again, it always happens this way, right? Of course, I always meet the straight guy that you would swear was gay, but then decides, I'm not gay. You're like, you're what? Okay, a little too much. All right. So we have to examine our beliefs. Anything, any thought, any area in our consciousness that's limiting us in any way, that's a belief that gets turned into an intention. And the 3 pillars of intentions are their affirmative, affirming the truth. They're in the present tense. It's not I will be abundant when I get this job. It's I am abundant now. I am open and available to more good than I have ever received, accepted, or manifested before. I live in a friendly universe that's constantly providing for me, that's tirelessly working on my behalf. These are intentions that we set that make our conversation in our minds louder than the chatter of our head or the chatter of the collective consciousness. So I'll ask you now, in this moment, what's your chronic complaint? What do you know? It's always this way. I'm always late. My boss never listens to me. My brother's always a conservative jerk. Oh, oops. I hope you're not listening. I love you, bro. But I do love you, Donnie. I love you so much. And my brother and I have good conversations. And we're becoming more loving in those conversations and like really listening to each other. Like I'm really listening to why he believes that Fox News is true. And he's really listening to why I believe NPR is true. Okay, so let me take a look at the comments here. We've got Jen. Hi, Jen. Jessica, Michelle Williams, looking forward to surrounding people. Yes, conversations. These conversations are church. That's right, baby. It's church. Sandy, Manuel, Deborah, Charles, Jer, Lynn. I never win the lottery. Okay, if that's your chronic complaint, here's the gig about lottery. Let me address that, Geraldine. Have you ever noticed people that win the lottery are broke 5 years later? Because it has nothing to do with the amount of money they have. It has to do with the consciousness that they hold. When we live in an abundance consciousness, abundance is manifested within us, right? So we must begin to see abundance everywhere. Oh my God, the abundance of beauty. There's a series on Netflix called Anne. It's basically Anne of Green Gables. It's a series, right? And I hadn't seen it until recently. And I really like it because this little girl, this character is constantly seeing the awe and wonder of life. You know, they're in their horse-drawn buggy, and it is autumn, and she's like, I love autumn. Oh my God, autumn. I wouldn't want to live in a world without autumn. It's fascinating to the imagination. It gives you such scope to the imagination, you know, this beautiful, buoyant feeling of like, I love this. So today I was walking to the gym this morning, and these two great blue herons flew over. Now I live in an area where they nest, so I see great blue herons all the time. But it's like, wow, I channeled some of that wonder and awe of Anne with an E, right? Wow, look, there's these like prehistoric creatures that are giant birds flying over. Isn't it amazing? And then I saw their nests, their gigantic nests, you know, like, wow. We live in a world that's amazing. So when we begin to, this was coming off of Geraldine's comment, I never win the lottery, right? We begin to see the abundance and prosperity everywhere around us. There's an abundance of leaves. There's an abundance of air. There's an abundance of love. Oh my goodness, there's an abundance of cells in my body. There's an abundance of me around the middle. No, I was, but really that's it. When we anchor into the consciousness of abundance, then we can hold that abundance and we create the space for more to come in. There's a beautiful oath of manifestation, and one of my favorite lines, the oath of manifestation was written by Reverend Cheryl Ward, and it says, I accept the principle that abundance and prosperity have already been given to me. My acceptance makes it real and opens the space for manifestation to rush in. So if we're talking about Geraldine winning the lotto, then, Geraldine, your job is to see abundance everywhere and to accept the principle that abundance and prosperity have already been given to you, and that will open the space for abundance to rush in. Manifestation of abundance to rush in. It may look like winning the lottery. It may look like a check in the mail. It may look like a gift from a long-lost aunt. Who knows? But I'm open and available to receiving that abundance in unexpected ways. There's an intention. I'm open and available to receiving abundance in unexpected ways. I like that, right? So the life structure, back to life structures, the life structure of beliefs are our invitation to examine the areas in our lives where any thought form, any habitual pattern of thinking that undermines the truth of our limitless nature. And the invitation is to turn that limited belief, that limited thought, that chronic thought form into an intention, and to work with that intention daily. To write it on a piece of paper and stick it on your refrigerator, stick it in your mirror when you brush your teeth, put it on your altar. My intention is to deeply connect with individuals and to attract my intention is to deeply connect with everyone I meet. I attract unexpected kindnesses and offers and generosity everywhere I go. That's my intention. Wow. My intention is to be in a divine right partnership. My intention is for divine right partnership. Yeah, that's a good intention. I want that intention. Those are the things that we begin, instead of I'll never find anybody. It's always the same. I go out on a lot of dates and it's always like, yeah, that not really clicking. Yeah, not right. Yeah, right. So what's my chronic thought pattern around that? And can I turn that into an intention, which is I am open and available for divine right partnership. And if you're out there, private message me. So yeah, that's true. So this is the idea of beliefs. Thank you all. Let's look at some more comments. We've got Geraldine. Take that challenge, Geraldine, and let me know how it turns out. And I'll only take 10% when you win the lotto. That's cool. Justin, funny you mentioned the lotto. Did you win? Okay. Okay, so our next life structure, I'm running long here. Our next life structure is relationships. Oh, what an easy transition into relationships. This structure is about expressing unconditional love and compassion, and it's about forgiveness. And all that unconditional love and compassion and forgiveness begin with ourselves. It begins first here and then moves out. So this life structure, relationships are sacred mirrors that reflect and reveal the areas within ourselves, within us, that are seeking to be healed. That is the life structure of relationship. Relationships are sacred mirrors reflecting and revealing the areas within ourselves that are seeking to be brought to the light, that are seeking to be healed. So the person that really rubs you wrong, sacred mirror. That way that guy eats. I have a friend that I love dearly, but he eats like a cow. And I grew up in a house where we were like, my father would like flick your ear if you were making mouth noises, if your teeth touched the fork and you made that noise, it was like, so my friend and I just have to be like, okay, there's something here for me. Instead of me just going, because I could just fixate, I can't believe he's eating that way. And pretty soon all I can hear is, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to see something within myself that is seeking to be healed. That one, I think, is an opportunity for me to be less critical, because my criticism of others is just a reflection of how critical I am about myself. Always unforgiving, hypercritical. This is the structure that we need to work on. This brings happiness to our relationships when we anchor into this life structure that begins with our relationship with ourselves and then expands out into our immediate beloveds and then into our community and then to the greater world at large. How can I be loving? How can I see every relationship, every interaction, whether it's professionally or business or it's just a random interaction at the grocery store, to be reflecting an area within me that's seeking to be healed, an area that's seeking to be brought to the light? It's always back here. That old saying, whenever you point a finger at somebody else, you've got three pointing back at you. And you're like, fuck you. But it's true, right? Whatever I'm blaming or pointing out in another is an area within me that is seeking to be healed. And so the sacred structure of relationships are gratitude for that relationship, because we are here. We're born perfect. There's nothing to fix. There's nothing wrong. There's an opportunity to perfect our loving. And when we perfect our loving of ourselves, we can perfect our loving of others. So it begins here. How can I, there's another intention. My intention is to do the most loving thing that I can for myself in this moment. What's the most loving thing I can do for myself right now, right in this moment? So I want to leave today's talk with this overview. One, we're talking about life structures. We're going to be talking next week about community and body temple, the life structures of community and body temple. Last week, we talked about spirituality and ego. Refresher: spirituality are spiritual practices. Ego is a healthy egoic structure that is outside of the realms of comparison and a good, healthy sense of self, love of self. This week, we talked about beliefs and relationships, beliefs being those areas of unexamined thought forms that are limiting in any way, that limit the nature of reality, that do not take account for the limitless nature of the infinite oneness and beingness that we live and move and have our beingness in. So, and the invitation around beliefs is to turn those limits, to observe when am I being limited? When am I being limited in my thinking? It's always this way. It never works out for me. I always find the straight guy who really should be gay. My family's always never listens to me. My brother never understands me. My boss never hears me. I never get credit for the work I do, right? Any of those limiting beliefs, we turn into an intention, and intentions are written affirmatively and in the present tense, and are open-ended, that are big enough to be lived out in more than just one. So it's not just my intention is to have my boss acknowledge me. No, it's my intention is to have a healthy sense of self and know that I am being acknowledged for the good work that I do. My intention is to have great relationships at work and to thrive and to contribute and to be acknowledged for my contributions. basically writing. And so if you have questions about intentions, you can private message me. I'd love to talk to you more about them. But intention, so the invitation around beliefs is to first notice my limiting beliefs, anything that limits the infinite nature of existence with my limited thought patterns, and turn that into an intention that overcomes the chatter of limitation, lack, fear, doubt, and worry in my mind, or the chatter of the race consciousness. There's always going to be discord in Congress. There's just always going to be poor people and rich people. It's the way it is. Always going to be homeless. Always, right? Whatever those limiting beliefs are, I work for a world that works for the best and highest individual and collective good. That's my intention, to see a world that's the best and highest individual and collective good. To see beyond the circumstance, we use the example of Nelson Mandela, beyond the circumstance of my current situation, to envision a world in which I want to live. And then we grow into that intention. And then we talked this week about relationships, which are the templates for loving. It begins with ourselves, that we are loving ourselves, and then moves out to our immediate relationships, and then to our community and the world at large, where we see that all relationships are sacred mirrors here to help us perfect our loving. That is the intention. So this, again, I want to acknowledge that that all of this teaching are teachings from Agape and from Michael Bernard Beckwith. That's his book, one of his books, Spiritual Liberation, a great book to read. I've also got Howard Thurman, Dr. Howard Thurman up there, who is another beautiful book, and the Bhagavad Gita, which I'm still working through. So I'm going to try and put some books up there each week that people might be interested in. And this week we're completing our talk on relationships and beliefs. I'm so glad you joined. Let's look lastly before we go to see Brandon, Deborah. Thank you. Yes, turn limited thinking into intentions. Linda Young. Great. Looking for you to come back in January 2021. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you all. Thank you so much. What a joy to be with you. Thank you for allowing me the privilege of being with you and for listening. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure I'm grateful to be able to do this. It's good for me. It's so good for me. I hope it's good for you. All right. Love you all. Peace and blessings until next week, Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific time. All right. Bye-bye.